There, I thought I'd put in my 2 cents, or perhaps a little bit more. So anyway, I wrote this over the weekend. And I have a few drama people who found out about 3 to 5 days ago that they would be part of this. So at this time, I'd like to bring them out. Here they are. Take your places. Sarah, Liam, Scotty, and Lucas. Well, it's been a quiet week in Storrs, Connecticut, my hometown, out on the edge of the campus. The weather has been behaving rather interestingly. A few days ago, the temperature suddenly dropped down to just over 60 degrees, and seeing as Storrs is right next to a campus, there are usually a lot of degrees in the air, so we don't really know what's going on. But then it started raining. And whenever it starts raining in Storrs, people huddle together under their umbrellas and try to figure out exactly why it's raining. And usually, as soon as they open their umbrellas, it stops raining, and the sun comes out, and the people joyously say,
"Hail to thee, rain gods!"
And then it begins to hail. But this time, 3 friends decided to hold a secret meeting in that relatively new restaurant, the Dog Lane Cafe.
Come, sit, stay.
And they argued for over an hour over why it might be raining. Each one came up with a different theory.
We're being punished for changing the Yukon Husky logo.
No, the sky is crying. It's still morning over store 24. You're both wrong. Rain occurs when cloud droplets grow and combine to become so large that their fall speed exceeds the updraft speed in the cloud, and they then fall out of the cloud.
And after an hour of bitter debate, the bartender, a man named Howard K. Teasdale, came over to the table and finally brought the descent to an end calmly and peacefully by saying,
"For God's sake, will you guys keep it down? You're bothering our customers."
It reminded me of the summer of 1967, back when I was in high school. I went to this high school called E.O. Smith, located right in the middle of Storrs, and every year in the last few weeks of school we would have a field day in which all of the students would spontaneously skip class and go out and play in the field. One year there was a thunderstorm on field day, and so this one kid suggested that we all just sit in the lobby and study. So he did, but the rest of us sat around telling jokes while pretending to study. We were able to disguise it pretty well. We talked about trigonometry.
It's a sign of the times.
And geometry.
We're just going around in circles.
Chemistry.
I don't know the solutions to these problems. Can't they be a bit more basic?
Ancient history.
So Constantine was roaming around one day.
Slightly more recent history.
I must be a Marxist. I love Groucho.
English.
Never more will I read Edgar Allan Poe.
And even music.
How many baritones are in the chorus?
Oh, only 10 or so.
At one point I stood up and said, it's a good thing we're not playing chess, because then we'd just be a bunch of chestnuts boasting in an open foyer. There was this one kid, Ben Walton, who stood up and yelled,
"That's the 10th time you've told that joke this week."
and I said, well, I was hoping at least one of the 10 puns I've told might please you, but clearly no pun intended. And he said,
"Stop telling puns right now or the joke's on you."
that was it. I was just a pundit. Since then, people in Storrs have gotten a lot nicer. A few days ago, I was over by Mirror Lake. Mirror Lake is located located in front of Yukon, and it got its name from the fact that it is a lake. But a few days ago, I observed a conversation about whether it was, in fact, a lake or whether it was actually a pond. And it was a very brief conversation when one guy said,
I mean, is this really a lake? Let's ponder that for a minute.
I knew something was fishy. But then the other guy came right back with,
Quit carping.
I spent the rest of the day walking around Mirror Lake talking about various things. And every once in a while I'd sit by the shore of the lake and stare into the water and reflect on my life so far. And then I noticed a young couple out by the lake fishing. And he was pulling something out of the water, and it was a big flat fish. And she said to him,
Oh, Jerry, quit floundering around.
and he replied,
Rosemary, that pun was so bad I went for a hook, line, and sinker.
and she said,
Come on, Jerry, we're working for scale here.
and Jerry responded,
Oh, you just said that for the halibut.
It reminded me of the summer of 1967, back when I was in high school. I was in a play that year. It was being directed by a senior in the drama club named Brian W. Smith. And one day Brian decided to rehearse down by Mirror Lake. So we all went down, and after about 10 minutes, E.O. Smith's drama director, Annabelle Lee, came down looking for us. And she demanded,
Brian, what in the world were you thinking?
Brian said,
Just thought I'd rehearse my cast here by the lake.
and Annabelle Lee softened up and replied,
Well, okay, but say goodbye to the loons for me.
Storrs is like that. If there's any town that prompts a person to talk to inanimate objects, it's Storrs. And I've known people who have stood on a hill overlooking Yukon for hours on end watching the sunset. And just when the sun is about to go behind the horizon, they turn to face the campus and say, with all the emotion in their hearts,
Here's looking at you, Con.
Of course, these days there are some new sites in Storrs, and a lot of that is due to a complex called Storrs Center, better known as
The Storrs of Storrs.
At Storrs Center. You can find all kinds of things. You can have a nice meal at the Dog Lane Cafe,
Con, sit.
Stay.
or you can walk up the path and check out the tattoo parlor, or you can walk the other way and get some impromptu Mexican food at Moe's. Of course, the thing about Moe's is you have to be very clever to be able to decipher the menu. The other day I went up to the counter at Moe's and said, I'd like to order a cheese quesadilla. And the guy at the counter said,
Here at Moe's, we call that a historical Mayan calendar 2013 relic. Unless you want Pico de Gallo on it, then it's called an air conditioner, oven, refrigerator, combination annihilator. But on the 1st, 2nd, and 25th of every month, it's called an Abe Lincoln.
So I stormed out of the restaurant and had a nice lunch at the Dog Lane Cafe,
Con, sit.
Stay.
where if you want to order a sandwich, all you have to do is ask Howard K. Teasdale for a sandwich. And while I was there, I was thinking about the summer of 1967, back when I was in high school. And there was an English teacher at E.O. Smith that everyone absolutely loved. His name was Murray Paulson. He was known all around the school for his great personality and his sense of humor. He loved a good joke.
Say, Mr. Paulson, how many procrastinators does it take to change a light bulb?
I don't know, Ted.
One, but he has to wait till the light gets better.
He loved a bad joke equally well.
Say, Mr. Paulson, would you punish me for something I didn't do?
Well, of course not, Ted.
Good, because I didn't do my homework.
The other thing Mr. Paulson was known for was his tendency to tell stories in class. Whenever we got got to the end of a chapter of Ulysses or Finnegan's Wake or the dictionary, and there was a lull in the class, someone would always say,
Tell us a story, Mr. Paulson.
and he'd tell us some amusing anecdote about his life. So one day in June, we were having our last English class before the final exam, and just when we were about to begin reviewing, someone said,
Tell us a story, Mr. Paulson.
and he said,
All right, I've got a story I've been saving for the end of the year.
he proceeded to tell us about a time when he and a friend of his went kayaking in the mountains, and it was starting to get late and they were getting cold, so they decided to light a fire in the kayak. But as soon as they did, the boat caught fire, and they both managed to swim to safety, but the kayak was gone forever. There was a deadly silence in the classroom. Then a kid named Lenny finally spoke up.
Pardon me for saying this, Mr. Paulson, but isn't that a somewhat depressing way to end the year?
It might be like, but it contains an important life lesson for all of you.
Which is...
You can't have your kayak and heat it too.
You can't have your kayak and heat it too. To this day, those words have remained strong in my mind, and I wanted to pass them along to you here tonight. And please know that if there's ever a time when you feel stranded out in a body of water and you just need a place to rest, and if you're anywhere near my house, by all means,
Come, sit.
Stay.
and that's the news from Storrs, Connecticut, where all the women are strong, all the men are good looking, and all the musicians are above average.